Howdy, howdy. Welcome back to the RedAss podcast. This is going to be episode 16. I am your host, Rob White, fighting Texas A Class of 2014.
And I'm Roy May, fighting Texas A Class of 2015. And I think after this past weekend, this is going to truly challenge the red acidness.
If that's the way we want to go about it.
I know, at the same time, though, complaining means you obviously care. We could sit here and do a completely apathetic cast about, the Aggie football game at Bama, but, there's a lot to talk about.
Sure, no, there's
a lot to talk about in college football.
Well, there's plenty to talk about in college football, and we'll definitely get into our game, that's no question, but we're going to go ahead and at least kick this thing off as we did last week. We're going to highlight some games that took place kind of locally and across the nation that, some results we were expecting, some we certainly were not. But we'll just go ahead and start early in the day. Actually, our next week opponent, Florida, took down South Carolina 38-24.
I didn't get to watch any of this game. I saw the numbers. And, I take that back. I watched a little bit of the game, real early.
Right.
And we'll get into the Florida game a little bit later.
Right.
But, look, Trask is who he is. At this point, It's no mystery. I don't know if it's because of the teams he's played combined with the fact that he has probably, what's the Mackey Award, the tight end award? Whatever the tight end award.
Right.
He's got that dude on his team.
Right.
But yeah, again, they won. They won by double digits, right?
Yep. But at one point they were up 38-14. They were cruising.
Oh, they were cruising, but still, if you look at their defense, I think it would be a touch concerning. As long as you outscore people, it doesn't matter. But I feel like when you look at their defensive stats, it might be a touch concerning because I'll tell you right now, I don't sit around and watch Florida games. I don't sit around and watch Florida replays, so I can't tell you when the starters came out, when they didn't.
Right.
But I'd be willing to bet that at one point when South Carolina pulled it in closer, that it probably wasn't the backup defense in there.
No.
So Florida might have a little concern with their defense. But again, it's one of those where when you got an offense that can outscore everybody,
it doesn't matter.
For the most part.
Right.
It can come back to bite you, but more often than not, you'll be successful.
Okay. So game 2 that popped up here, fairly local. So over in Austin, you had a TCU take down Texas.
Local.
Yeah, TCU take down Texas.
I didn't even know the line on that game. I figured it'd been giving anywhere between 10 to 14, and just flat out, you'd be crazy at least not to bet TCU on that line.
No, not at all.
Just because Gary Patterson going into the game was 6 of 8. Against Texas, 6 of the last 8. So you're talking to me, dude. It was glorious to watch.
It always is.
Absolutely glorious to watch.
It's like Texas is back again for the second week in a row.
No, it was Gary Patterson. It's one of those things where we all remember the Gary Patterson TCU. They went to the Rose Bowl, right? They kind of. They kicked some stuff around for a while, and they got really good. Now, or just Gary Patterson teams, really, kind of in general.
Right.
And you start to wonder, it goes twofold in this game. And actually, before I get into this, how you have first and goal from basically a fart away, and you don't run Ellinger 4 straight times, I will never understand. You've established him as your battering ram, and like him or not, the kid can play football, and he's good at running, and he understands finding little gaps down the goal line.
Right.
And you give it to somebody other than Sam Ellinger. It's fascinating, but it's kind of twofold. How good would Gary Patterson be if he went somewhere where he could bring in legitimate 4 and 5 stars regularly?
Right.
And I think there are a lot of I know there are a lot of Texas fans. I'm on the meltdown thread on Texags.
Right.
There are a lot of Texas fans that are starting to get a little pissed off about, how come we have multiple coaches in a row that can't coach top 5 and top 10 recruiting classes? Well, maybe they weren't top 5 or top 10 recruiting classes.
Oh, we've said that for years.
So your
recruiting.
Don't get me wrong, your angst should be towards the coaches. I think everything always falls at the foot of the coach when it really comes, when it all comes out in the wash, the coach is the one that gets paid millions of dollars.
Right.
But And it's been proven, it's been shown, there are a lot of Texas recruits and some current players that were probably rated a lot higher than they should have been coming out of high school.
And that's just been a trend.
And you know what that does, and there are some SIPs, there are some Texas fans out there that are really starting to finally figure it out. You have all these expectations of a coach that can't seem to function with all these 4 and 5 stars on his roster, but maybe they weren't 4 and 5 stars.
Well, I'll just pull up an example of one of the things that we saw. There was a guy he came out with basically this list of players, bringing in talent, 4 and 5 star talent versus producing them in the NFL, and out of all FBS schools,
Texas always at the bottom.
Well, Texas was ranked dead last. Out of Power 5, like if they bringing in like the ratio of bringing in top talent versus sending them to the NFL, so that tells me that there's got to be something wrong with the recruiting numbers there. It's just pretty straightforward.
Well, here's how I look at it, and first of all, Sips, you have screwed your head coach and you've screwed your own personal stuff into feeling like this can happen because you think you have a class full of 4 and 5 star studs when the reality is. They're probably closer to a lot of 4 stars and more 3 stars.
Right.
And so you get pissed at coaches for not, being able to win at a national level with recruits that you thought were really good. And then on the back end, you get destroyed in recruiting because 4 and 5 stars, quote unquote, are going to Texas and they're not going to the NFL and they're not being wildly successful.
Right.
And then you have these rankings pop up, which are nothing but recruiting fodder for every other school out there. Like, hey, man, it doesn't matter how good you are, you ain't never making it to the NFL.
Right.
So it's fascinating to me that it goes both ways, well, it's really not both ways. It's like it's like a frog gig. It's got some prongs on it,
right.
And there are some sips that are starting to figure it out. The national media is boosting too many recruiting rankings,
no doubt,
and because it gives Texas look for whatever reasons the people that do it, and it gives them the optics of signing top 5 classes in back-to-back years is huge. But then on the back end, you're reaping what you sow because now everybody else can be like, man, look at all these 5 stars that didn't end up in the NFL because Texas sucks at coaching.
Right, and like I said, they've been proven time and time again that they just, for whatever reason, over these last several years, ever since they moved away from Mac Brown, there's just not anything there to make it happen. It's just not a program that's really built around the prestige that it theoretically wants to view itself as.
They failed in head coaching hires, and those failed head coaches have failed in coordinator hires. At least Charlie Strong was likable.
Here's the thing, Charlie Strong.
All right, but you know what?
Yeah,
We're not going to go down.
No,
I'm not going to talk about the Sips that long.
No.
The one thing I will close that on, though. Well, 2. 1, I said earlier, I really did think TCU would cover a spread, honestly.
Right.
And 2, ha. Gary Patterson owns your asses. 7 of the last 9. When's the last time we lost to TCU in the Nixon administration?
72. 72.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the Red River Shootout later.
So hashtag Texas is back. Anyway, moving on.
Way back.
So we're going to go back here. So we got Tennessee. Took down Missouri. That was pretty much
expected. Not surprising. I think Missouri is, given what Arkansas did, I think Missouri is going to be the...
We'll get to that.
Yeah, well, I think Missouri might be the doormat this year. Is kind of what it looks like, at least right now.
Yeah.
Like, the Missouri-Vanderbilt game may be one of the most entertaining games we see all season.
Right. It's going to be the battle for who can finally get themselves a conference
SEC
win.
pillow fight.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very fun. NC State took down previously undefeated Pitt by a point on the road.
That was surprising, just because I thought Pitt was pretty good. But again, the ACC is Clemson and nobody else. They're literally just all battling for second.
Yeah, and North Carolina took down Boston College.
Yeah, if it ain't the SEC, I don't care.
Right.
Honestly, there's no good games out there. I mean,
Cincy,
the Baylor WVU game I did call. I called West Virginia in an outright upset.
Right, and they did. In overtime.
And because Baylor gave up like 400 plus passing yards to TCU the week before, and I mean, you saw the TCU offense.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they looked pretty good against the Sips.
Right. Sure.
All right.
Anyway, Oklahoma State took down Kansas, whatever. So one of those upset games we did talk about, I think we both called, was SMU taking down Memphis.
Oh man, I think I might have picked. No, I think I ended up. I ended up going with SMU. Just the rambling ponies. But
Right.
but it's just I already it was the Shane Buechele thing. I think I actually thought Memphis was going to win, and I was like, you know what? I'll pick SMU because I know it'll just piss the Sips off.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
And they cruised. Then you got kind of a shock for how wide the spread was on this game at the end of the day. That was Georgia taking down Auburn 27-6.
Dude, I called Georgia beating Auburn.
Well,
I called it, and it wasn't even and that was the thing. I still don't understand the love affair with Bo Nix and Auburn.
Right.
And like Dallas Ship said like a week or two ago, he's like, is it September or October? And the SEC have Gus Malzahn in on the hot seat,
Right.
because Georgia just dismantled them.
Yeah, and like I said, the line on that one was 7.5, and Georgia just kind of cruised on.
God,
it.
it's such a weird season.
I think
Georgia might have beat Arkansas by a lot of points the week before.
Yeah.
But they did not look good doing it.
No, and then here was a kind of a surprise. We were talking about UCF trying to take advantage of their chance. False. They lost to Tulsa at home.
One of the greatest troll posts in the history of college football has got to be Tulsa's college. Like Tulsa football tweeted out, and it was something. It was a quote of or like a little GIF from Bob's Burgers, and the little girl's like asking like, "Where's your freaking bounce house, man?" Yeah, so they can. Look, there's a lot of years that UCF's been really good, all right? And that's fine, but dude, and that's the other catch. Like, you're not even playing with the big boys, and you can't avoid that. You can't avoid like the Herman random upset or the Malzahn meltdown, in early fall. So
right, and then you had the real kind of like my big. Then we're coming up on my two big shocks of the week, no doubt. Arkansas going to Mississippi State after they defeated the defending national champs and beating them 21-14.
Man, if you haven't seen the new SEC short video, it's
So
about
good.
Arkansas. It's a spoof on It's a Wonderful Life. And if you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, seriously watch that and then watch the spoof because you need to watch It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, it's one of those movies you just gotta watch.
I damn near pissed my pants.
It was so
good.
funny.
You know what? I'm so happy for Arkansas. I really kind of am. I've got some friends that are Hogs fans, and not to mention, if that isn't the most Leach thing in the history of Leach things,
Right.
and I've told you, I followed his career when he was over the Pac-12 Wazoo, and it was fun to watch. And then he just lay an egg. You're like, what?
Yeah.
So it turns out our fourth game of the year may not be against the '85 Bears.
Right.
Yeah. So, but we'll worry about that. I mean, who knows? Mississippi State may come out again this next week and win by 40.
It's like,
But I tell you what, I mean, they beat LSU, and LSU wasn't ready to play a Leach, play defense against a Leach offense.
No.
They just weren't. I mean, when you're going to go out there and sling it 742 times a game,
Right.
but
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that result coming.
No, me
by any
either.
means.
No.
I didn't think Mississippi State would come back to earth a little bit.
But not that much. They got buried.
That
under
is
the
crashing into the planet.
Yeah,
dude.
they're buried under the earth. I don't know what the heck happened there. Now, I would say almost.
You know what that's equivalent of?
What's that?
It's like NASA spending like hundreds of millions or even like getting to the billions of dollars stage to send a rover to like Saturn and have it just burn in and destroy on impact.
Right.
Like
yeah.
that was the turnaround. Like between week 1 and week 2 for Mississippi State.
It's just crazy.
Womp womp.
So that was a huge upset, no doubt. But I think almost equally as big of an upset you had Oklahoma going on the road to Iowa State, lost that game in Ames. First time they've lost in Ames in, I don't remember what the number was that Travis said, but it's been a long time. But yeah, you had a 37-30 Iowa State taking down Oklahoma.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, like I didn't have a whole lot of faith in Brock Purdy. I thought, you would turn it around.
1960s.
And, well, no, I'm just specific to Brock Purdy. I didn't see Iowa State pulling it off.
No, me either.
Not
even.
I thought it'd be a good game. I watched that game. That was on after ours.
Right.
It was a riveting game. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun to watch, but
yeah. Bradley.
OU's in trouble, man.
No doubt.
Whoever loses coming out of Dallas this week as a coach is in deep, deep doo-doo.
Well, and whoever loses out of Dallas is definitely out of the playoff, no doubt.
Well, I don't think
Zero
there's
chance.
I don't think there's a team that's going to be in Dallas this weekend that has a chance at the playoffs.
No.
And hopefully the Cowboys are playing at home, so that includes them too.
Right. But I think the
We got
only
a blanket statement.
heck, I think the only undefeated team left in the Big 12 right now is Oklahoma State. I'm pretty sure. I have to go back and double check that. Fact check me there.
God, is it Oklahoma State?
But yeah, I think Oklahoma State's the only undefeated
Well,
team.
isn't Kansas State undefeated in conference?
In conference. In conference, yeah. Iowa State, hats off to them. Nice win. Then you had LSU just kind of cruise against Vandy. I mean, it's Vandy. It's the conversation we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it's Vandy. But, they cruised. Everything was fine on that front. So, I guess that just kind of leaves us with the game of the day, the topic of discussion. I'm sure everybody.
Game slot of the day. It wasn't the game of the day.
No, the game that everybody wants to talk about and the things we want to look at. So let's just jump into it. Alabama, number 2. We go into their house, lose 52-24. Not the result. Certainly, any hardcores were wanting. I think a result that many people were expecting, but not necessarily how we got there. Was a lot of it.
I don't even know where to start getting mad.
I mean,
it's a problem. I got a really good Monday.
Okay, so let's
So
I've
kind of gotten over being mad. Like, dude, my weekend was like I ran to the restaurant, took care of some stuff, got home, watched the Ags. Well, watched the end of the Sips.
Right.
And I was like, hey, it's shaping up to be a pretty sweet Saturday. Beautiful weather.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. All I expected was for us to cover the spread. I really didn't expect much more.
No. And that's pretty much what happened.
Well, we didn't even cover the spread.
Well, sure we did. It was 18.5.
Yeah, we lost by 28.
No, we lost, dude.
52-24.
Yeah, whatever.
Math is hard sometimes.
Math, whatever.
Yeah. So we didn't cover the spread, and it just... it wasn't uninspired football. It wasn't crappy football. Like, I thought Mon played a better game against Bama than he did against Vandy.
Well, sure. I mean,
minus the pick 6, which was a back foot throw he shouldn't have made. But those are just going to... The best quarterbacks throw picks, and the best of them have thrown pick 6s.
Right.
But...
Let's see. He was 25...
So, hell, Tom Brady threw one on Sunday.
Right. He was 25 of 44 for 318 yards, had 3 touchdowns in that one pick.
You'd like to see the completion rate be a little higher.
Significantly higher, but that's just...
Well, even a little higher would be nice.
Yeah.
But, again, you got wide receivers. The effort to the ball isn't where it needs to be. So, it's just... There are completions that should be on that stat line that weren't there.
No. There were several drops.
And you got drops, and then you have 0 return yards, kick or punt.
Right.
But for a game, that wasn't just like a couple kicks. In case anybody missed that, we had 0 punt return yards and 0 kick return yards.
Yeah, see, if you can't get help with the special teams, that doesn't help.
Well, it's not your best way to go about things.
No.
And the defense, I thought the defense was atrocious.
Oh, I mean, well, let me preface. I think rush defense was perfectly fine, but anytime you threw the ball, it was game over. They would burn us anytime they would put one down the field.
Yeah, well, they have 3 touchdowns over 60 or 65, something like that.
Just absolutely
and, one of my biggest things I said was to say, if the safeties have to have the game of their lives and keep the cap on the defense. And the very specific thing that the secondary in general did not do was keep a cap on the defense.
No.
Knowing that Alabama's got 2 first-round wide receivers, out there playing. And then on top of that, I guess, you could say the run defense is good, but, man, when you're letting them pass all day,
they don't have to run.
They don't have to run much.
No.
And then furthermore, the pass rush was terrible.
No, pass rush wasn't great.
They didn't. I don't know if we got more than 5 hands on Mac Jones the entire game, and that included sending blitzes, which I think one of the blitzes was on that. Was it like 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 12 where we gave up the, yet another massively explosive chunk play?
Right.
And I flat out said this. I can't remember if it was on our podcast or on the fan show. When Alabama is positive in the turnover battle and scores 1 or more explosive touchdown, I bet you they're undefeated over the past 10 years.
That wouldn't shock me.
And not only that, they had a pick 6. And they had 3 explosive plays. So what you end up seeing is a 4-touchdown ass kicking.
Right, as opposed to what was at one point in this game a pretty tight ball game early second quarter. You had, looking at the positives early in the game, we gave up a couple of early touchdowns. But we came back with a couple of back-to-back plays, I think is what it was after the pick six. We found ourselves sitting, or after the interception, we were, it was all tied up at 14. Looked like we were going to make a ball game out of it for a little bit. But then, really, I think just the wheels came off there in the second quarter.
You can't leave points on the board against Alabama.
No.
That's all there is to it. You can't leave points on the board. We had a wonderful first drive. Like, I don't think you could have asked for a better first drive.
No.
I mean, outside of putting it in the end zone. But you know what? We kind of had our will. We fizzled out right at the end. And then you have a kick that sails, 30 yards left. I mean, it wasn't even close to being on the mark. And then it's just this automatic momentum shift that you always see and feel when you play Alabama. And from there, we were playing catch up, and we did play catch up. We caught up for a little bit, and I thought that was a little shock to a little energy kind of injected into us, a little shock into Bama.
Right.
And then we turned around and just shit the complete bed on defense.
No, yeah.
And so there are so many things about that game that are so garbage, and we could sit here for hours and talk about it, but I think what we really need to talk about
for sanity purposes, we can't.
what's got to change? What's got to change and what can change? Because there are things that need to change. Well, I mean, we can address them both, I guess.
Okay.
What has to change and what can be changed in a week.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so, I'll start with explosive plays.
Right.
And I don't know if this can or can't be changed. But they knew damn well going into this game they had certain receivers that they really had to contain. They failed to do it. And next week they've got an all-world tight end coming in who isn't quite like a tight end. Like, he can make explosive plays. He's more, he's like a Watermeyer or maybe even a Cup, like a Baylor Cup.
Right.
More speed, he's huge, he's got great hands, he plays well. And there's nobody that can cover that guy. But the problem is, it's not like Florida has crap out wide, so their wide receiver is going to be good enough to where you're going to end up being soloed on what is this, Pitts? Isn't that his name? Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, it's Pitts.
So the problem is, can we change it in a week to where,
my question is, what's going to be an effective scheme to use? Because
12 men on the field. We need the 12th man.
Well, that's fine, but let's be realistic. What's going to be an effective scheme?
I don't think there's an effective scheme because we don't have the personnel to do it. That's the problem. So, really, the only effective scheme that I see defensively for us this week is pressure on Trask. The only way that we're going to be effective, on the back end, the secondary, is to put a ton of pressure on him. And you might have to do something, kind of inventive, like you've seen sometimes some teams in the past. They'll drop a defensive end back into coverage on a tight end to cover short stuff, or somebody that's at least his size. Like a Michael Clemens to shadow Pitts,
sure.
Up to 10 yards, and then you've got to pick up on the back end in nickel. The problem is, I think we've got to play a lot of nickel. We lost our nickel back for next week, and when you play nickel, the likelihood of you getting home on the quarterback is lower. So, it's not all doom and gloom in the sense that I think we're going to have doors blown off, but I think it's going to be really difficult to figure out a way. The only real way to do it is to provide so much pressure on the quarterback that they can't afford to release the tight end.
No.
He is, if you haven't watched any Florida football and you haven't seen any highlights, I'm going to tell you right now, their tight end is an absolute game changer. Think Gronkowski, think Travis Kelce, think these big bad dudes that have turned the tight end position to a touch of a hybrid because they're so athletic and they have such good hands and such good route discipline, and they're released with their feet. With the combination of the feet and the hands with their release, the only way that you stop these guys, or at least keep their stats to as minimum as possible, is you got to put the QB's face in the dirt.
Right.
And you're going to have to do it all afternoon.
Yeah, and see, that's going to be the trouble. It's just can we get that pressure? That's the question.
I don't know. I think we can, but it's just a think. I mean, I didn't see anything on Saturday to tell me that we will. I mean, we had 0 sacks. How do you have 0 sacks? Because I know we dialed up blitzes. It's not like we refused a blitz all game. So how do you have 0 sacks? Period. I don't care if it's Alabama. How do you not flood a box so well and have at least tight enough coverage to slow the QB's ability to release the ball quickly? How are you doing it? Because we threw blitzes in there and the coverage wasn't that tight.
And that gets you burned.
That's just not how any of this works.
No.
That's not how any of this
It's
works.
not how any of this works.
So I don't know. The Anias drop was huge, but good Lord, you're going to go after a kid for one drop,
Well, and see, that's just it. I feel like...
I thought the running game was moderately effective. We had more rushing yards in Alabama.
Well, yeah. Well, I thought it was wild. I'm not sure if you saw this stat, but did you see who our leading rusher was?
Mond?
Haynes King. The backup quarterback comes
yeah.
in and had the leading rush.
So then there's a question, and don't feed me the whole they had nothing but backups in because they didn't. Go watch the tape and look at the players that were making tackles for Alabama. Those are not second string players.
No, but still.
Well, so then you look at it and you're like, all right, we have more rushing yards, but how many rushing yards that were really effective and valid because they occurred before we were down 1 million points.
Right.
So
Not
yet
very many
again,
of them.
can't establish a running game against Alabama.
No.
There's not much to say about that game other than the fact it was a big steaming pile of shit.
It wasn't a good game, man. Like I said, everything was tough about it. I mean, you look at...
When we missed the field goal on the first drive, you just, as an Aggie, you were like, yep.
Well, it's one of those games. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch the first quarter. I kind of jumped in because I was getting ready to go play the
So
show.
you're already on the downslide.
Yeah, see, I was out there playing
The missed
show.
field goal
Yeah.
first drive and the drop by Anias to convert the fourth down.
Right. Well,
And really, that one was almost bigger because you're like,
okay.
It's over.
Here's the thing. When you are sitting here and you're down at that point, you're down 28-14. You have the ball 2nd and 1, and you can't convert.
Well,
That's what ended it for me. Like literally, I tweeted at that point. And the thing is, I don't go after individual players on Twitter. I never have, and I never will. But I did post. One thing I did say was like, man, you can't even make it happen on 2nd and 1 and convert.
you know what good teams do? They get a yard when they need them.
They get a yard when you need it. And like I said, good teams lose in spite of mistakes. Great teams...
No, they win in spite of mistakes.
Well, the great teams win in spite of mistakes. Good teams lose because of them.
Yeah, because of them.
Right. And so, unfortunately, we are at a point where we are not proving ourselves to be any kind of great team. We knew that coming in.
Well, right now, I think we're just average.
Even if that, right.
I think we're middle of the pack. That's maybe just
On what was supposed to be the quote-unquote dream year for this program that everybody was like beating their chest about. Oh, it's going to be 2020. Oh, it's going to be 2020. Look at us coming in here in 2020. We're going all the way in 2020. Granted, I get it.
They already changed the university seal once. Maybe we can change it again and add the words "wait till next year."
Wait till next year. Like I said, we're at a point
We'll start
where...
putting on your diplomas, just burying it in your head.
We're at a point where it's not... We got to... I mean, and this goes back... we talk about things that need to change. Do our expectations need to change?
No,
I don't think so.
No, I refuse to have expectations.
Absolutely not.
I mean, once you get to the point where you're like Bill Burr, manage your expectations levels of crap, then why even bother?
Well, let's see. Like, here's
why
my
bother?
thing. You look at Texas A&M as a program. And like I said, this once again not one of these quick fixes. It never is. But you look at Texas A&M as a program, and we have proven ourselves to be a program that is willing to throw money at our problems.
Absolutely.
And see if we can't get that fixed. Now, I'm not going to be the person that's out here like some of these yahoos are already like, we need to fire Jimbo Fisher.
That's insane.
Like that's absolutely asinine, especially on a 10-year contract, $75 million guaranteed. You can't do that.
God, it's like West Ham negotiated that contract.
Like you can't do that. So, like I said, I think what it does is for us, it makes us reevaluate how we go about this in the future. I think Jimbo Fisher, I think he's a fine coach, absolutely. The question is he a national championship winning coach when he doesn't have a Heisman Trophy winner at a quarterback position? That's the question.
Well, then the rebuttal would be, is the quarterback under center currently one he recruited?
Right, and lots of questions that are getting asked. So, I get it. Kellen Mond is not his quarterback.
He's not. I think Kellen understands the system the best, and that's why I think Jimbo sticks with him.
Right.
Because having a lot of talent and not understanding the system. What was fascinating to me, though, our first drive of the game was, I don't want to say vanilla, but it was really just kind of a straightforward, just dunk down the... It wasn't a complicated drive. It didn't seem complicated, didn't look complicated.
Right.
But then we don't get cute. I mean, look, I don't know if you've ever seen Jimbo run a trick play. I don't think I have.
No.
So he doesn't get cute really with offense or anything, but he just starts to get so complicated.
Right.
And sometimes I think when we run a more simplified approach. You saw it literally the first drive against Alabama. And if there's a team that just running a plain old pro style, go straight at them offense shouldn't work against, it's Alabama. And it did.
Right.
And it worked. And so when things started to get a little more complicated later in the game, you're kind of wondering why. Like, if you just lined up, ran plays, ran it at them, and took it down the field, maybe we stick with that.
Right.
See, yeah, I'm just, the definition of insanity is...
Right, yeah.
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Yeah.
Now, but wouldn't, like, the definition of being a completely normal, sane human being would, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the thing is, you look at Jimbo Fisher as a coach and his scheme the way it goes. It is very pro-style. It's very old school, as it were. And there's a lot of people that in this town around this team appreciate the style, sure.
Well, it's old school, but it's complicated.
It's old school, but it's complicated, and that's the trouble. I mean, he's talking about the fact that, once again, one of the things we talked about, where we need these young kids to come in here and play ball, and they won't put them in because either it's too complicated or it's just not, like, the right time for them to play. I totally get it, especially on the road. The thing I would not do, and Jimbo did it, but the thing I would not do is put my young quarterback in a situation where he's going to get the shit kicked out of him on the road against the number 2 team in the country because you've run out of options.
I was just 1,000% with that, and it turns out he didn't get the shit kicked out of him.
Which he didn't, which I'm really happy about. But, like I said, he's, and that's...
Well, yeah, but if you're a coach and Mond is your guy moving forward, the game is out of reach, you don't leave him in. I mean, how many times have you seen star players get left in too long in games and they get injured and ruin their season?
Right, and you don't want
not that our season is going to end up in some glorious triumph, but...
I think I would have liked Zach Calzada there, personally. But at the same time, I don't hate the fact that...
You can't deny what King went in there and did, though.
No, King came in and did very well, and I was very happy to see that. Now, once again, this begs a lot of questions that a lot of people are going to ask about going forward. I think that the conversation needs to happen. Not this week, not at the end of this week, but maybe next week.
I think there's a situation this week where the conversation could happen.
It could happen. I'm thinking mid-game if it's just bad. And I mean bad, that the conversation can happen.
Start building towards next year.
Right.
Win your games, try to get to a bowl, and just call it a season.
Right, and the thing is...
I hate to say that, but also... Let's not go down the doom and gloom.
No, it's not doom and gloom.
How about let's shift gears before we get too sad about the pummeling we took.
Sure.
Well, I said earlier, I had the weirdest weekend ever. A&M got destroyed. Aggie soccer, unfortunately, lost on the road.
Right.
The Cowboys are just flat, hot garbage on defense.
Yeah.
And then, the bright spot of my weekend was West Ham at Leicester, and that would be the equivalent of us going to Alabama and flip-flopping that score. And so West Ham, of all the sports teams I follow, they're the one that saves me, and they're the one that are going up, the Alabamas of...
Right, see, they're not the team that would do that normally.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go...
Well, we would never go into Bama and win by 28. Not anytime soon.
No.
And so it was literally a complete flip-flop. And then I played golf on Sunday. A wife came out with me.
Right.
And then, today I bought a new driver. So, look, I bought a new driver. Look, you Texans fans, y'all got rid of Bill O'Brien.
Be happy.
The Stros fans, I don't know if the game's over, but I know they're up by a ton.
Yeah, they're up 10-5 right now.
So... I saw something that apparently the Dodgers players didn't want the Astros players in the Dodgers locker room. Didn't matter if they were home or away. And my first thought was, well, that's fine. We didn't have any problem winning out of the away locker room in Dodger Stadium.
No, they didn't.
So the Stros turned around. You fired Bill. In fact, I think Blom tweeted out, you guys, it's really weird. Bill O'Brien gets fired at almost the exact same time Bregman hits a bomb.
Right.
So... all is not lost. There's a football game that we're going to talk about at Kyle Field.
Right.
Super early in the morning. Anais is pretty sure we're all trying to get drunk.
Pretty sure.
I don't know if you saw that response, but I think it's hilarious.
Yes.
He needs to be in every press conference ever, forever.
He's pretty good.
He's so hilarious. So let's talk a little bit. Maybe we'll bring a little bit of football around the SEC first.
Sure.
And then we'll kind of land on our game.
Right. So let me go ahead and get that pulled up in the meantime.
I'll tell you what.
Let me go ahead and say this. So I mean, you're talking about all your positives this weekend. Meanwhile, my other team, Liverpool, did not have a good weekend.
Liverpool and Manchester United got beat like the Eggs got beat, maybe worse.
It was not great, and the thing is, I will say this:
Liverpool will bounce back.
no, Liverpool will bounce back. The thing was, any Aston Villa fans that are listening to this podcast,
there aren't any Aston Villa fans in the United States. I don't think.
But fair play to them. They played a hell of a match, and good on them.
So Tottenham ran it up on Man U because they had a red card.
Yeah, exactly.
For those of y'all that don't know, if you have a red card, it's like a permanent penalty in hockey. Like you're just off the ice and the other team plays with 10 men.
Basically, if you're sitting in the box for the rest of the game.
Yeah, for the rest of the game.
Right. So let's go ahead and hop in. Let's take a look at let's look at top 25. We can bounce around some other stuff.
I was gonna say, any both top 25 matchups. If there are any top 25 both team matchups.
Right. First one of the day. There's really two of them, like right out the gate, that are top 25 matchups that are ranked. You have Virginia Tech at North Carolina. They're both undefeated. UNC is a 5.5 point favorite at home. I
literally have not even seen a Virginia Tech score.
No.
But I like Virginia Tech, so
I like them too.
I'll take Tech.
I'm about to say they're a very slight, according to the matchup predictor.
So they're underdogs.
They're a slight favorite.
Oh, V-Tech's a favorite.
Yeah, V-Tech's a slight favorite.
I'll take them to cover.
Yeah. So 5.5, take them to cover. Okay.
We need to start tracking these picks.
Yeah, we need to. We go back and check them out. Okay, so of course 11 a.m. At the Cotton Bowl, real Cotton Bowl in Dallas.
Yeah, the Red River Shootout. Yeah,
Red River Shootout, not rivalry, not whatever.
I don't have any idea what to think of this game.
It's going to be an absolute. I'll tell you
it might be a really competitive game.
I think it's going to be the highest scoring Red River Shootout we've ever seen, because there's no defense on either side.
Yeah, they're so bad.
There's no defense on either side. I want to see what the over/under is if they have it. Yeah.
I mean, is there a line? The line's. God, who has the line? Texas, I guess. Texas 2-1. OU's 1-2.
Oklahoma. Well, so they don't have an over/under. The spread is currently 1.5 to Oklahoma, but the predictor is saying like 67% chance in favor of Texas. So they have no idea who's going to do well in this game.
I don't put a lot of stock in the ESPN predictors.
Never.
So OU's a 1.5 point favorite.
I think Texas wins it. The only reason I say Texas...
This would totally be the game that Tom Herman goes out and wins by like 15.
Right. I think Texas will win this one just because I think Oklahoma is just lost on their identity right now.
Yeah, the problem with OU is, they don't have a defense, but everybody knew that. But, man, their offense is in shambles.
Yeah, but Rattler, everybody was like on at Rattler earlier that he's going to be this grand
I still
next
think
one.
he's going to be really good.
He's good. I mean, he's got almost 1,000 yards passing already on the year, but the thing is, he's got 10 touchdowns. His problem is he's got 4 interceptions to match those 10, versus Ellinger, who's got 14 touchdowns and has 2 picks. So quarterback-wise, it's really not.
If you're just looking at the secondary, it's not like Texas secondary is any good.
No,
I don't think their defensive weakness is not. It's the back end. Mm-hmm. I think their front end. I mean, as long as they have like 3 or 4 injuries.
Right.
So I think a lot of it has to do with what Texas players are okay after last week.
But
I'll tell you right now. OU's going to win.
Right. See, here on the year, I'll just kind of looking at, just again give you stats. Whether they matter or not, it's up to your opinion. But total yards gained up to this point in the year, Texas has 517. I guess like average per game, 517. Oklahoma's 513. So, it's a wash. Now, yards allowed, it's a little bit different. Oklahoma's like 317. Texas 379.
Yeah, but who were the Sips played?
UTEP.
UTEP, Texas Tech.
Yeah, who put up a shit ton on them, and TCU who put up enough to win.
I'll tell you right now, if you just look at opponents played, I think OU wins this game.
I think OU should win this game.
I think OU. I'll pick OU, and that's part of that's because I can't stand the Sips, and I can't ever imagine picking them to do anything favorable. But I think OU rights the ship. I think they're both sitting.
They need to.
They're both sitting at 2-2 after this week, and the meltdown coming out of Austin will be. They literally, their servers might go down on, was it Orange Bloods or Texas or Burn Orange Nation or whatever it is. Yeah. I personally, I think, I said OU was going to right the ship last week, but again, Iowa State in Ames. You don't
Right.
just go walking into Ames,
No,
Iowa on a
no.
Thursday night.
Everybody forgets. Everybody forgets about Ames, man. It's one of those towns will get you. Trust me, I've been there when it's happened.
Yeah, no, I think OU wins this.
Me too.
And I think it's a really entertaining game, and I think it goes down to maybe the last possession or two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll take OU to beat the Sips.
That's fair. Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, don't really care.
Don't care.
Here you go. Tennessee at Georgia, both undefeated. Georgia's a 13.5-point favorite at home.
I'll take Georgia to cover.
Georgia to cover, so
I
at least two touchdown wins.
I think Georgia kind of hit its stride a little bit last week because I don't think
they did
Auburn's
too.
a bad football team.
No.
And they just kind of manhandled Auburn.
That was CBS 2:30, so that's going to be
yeah, that's got to be the 2:30 game. Yeah, I'll take Georgia just to beat the stuffing out of them.
I think it's going to be really that's going to be what's really going to show Tennessee's colors, I think.
Yeah,
This
well,
game.
a little bit of both.
Yeah,
after
true.
Georgia stumbled the first week, I think we're going to see that Georgia's still the team to beat in the East. And, until it comes to the cocktail party.
Right.
I can't wait for that game.
No, that's going to be
cocktail party should be if Georgia can really kind of beat up on Tennessee this week.
Yeah.
I think one of the best games remaining in the SEC is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Oh yeah, it should be a
Florida
good
and
one.
Uga.
Okay, so a couple other big games. Well, we'll go to those here in a minute. You got BYU, UTSA.
Don't care.
Don't care. You got Texas Tech at Iowa State.
Iowa State doesn't matter what the line is.
Right, and it's 12.5 to Iowa State.
State
At home.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's in Ames. In Ames.
In Ames.
Yeah.
In Ames.
Yeah, it's an easy one.
Apparently Bregman did something good just for anybody paying attention. Okay, Arkansas at Auburn. I think Auburn wins.
I think that could be a really good game.
It could be a really good game.
Because for the first time in 21 games, as you're talking about over 1,071 days, I think,
Whatever
since
it was.
Arkansas won a conference game.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
You want to talk about a program that could use a boost in the arm, and now you're like, oh shit, we got to play Arkansas after a win?
Yeah.
I don't even remember what they did the last time after a win.
Yeah.
And they went out and voted for the first George Bush. It feels like it's been that long. So I think, Auburn got their teeth kicked in a little bit.
A little bit. It's going to have to be something they have to figure out. I think, it's a 16.5 to Auburn.
No, I think Auburn's going to win, but I think Arkansas will cover that spread.
I think Arkansas covers too.
Because they realize they got nothing to lose, and they realize that they actually can physically win a football game.
Right. Okay, and next game is ESPN 5 p.m. game. You got Alabama traveling to Ole Miss. They are 24-point favorite.
They'll cover next.
Okay, easy enough. The only top 10 match.
Kiffin's going to need a couple of years to get the people he wants.
Top 10 match of the week. This is the game of the week. It's going to be 3-0 Miami at 3-0 Clemson. Clemson's a 14.5-point favorite.
Man, that really is kind of the game of the week.
It is.
Miami's on a roll.
They have. I think it's definitely the game.
This will really be Clemson's first test too.
Probably their only test.
Yeah,
before the playoff.
Unless UNC or VTech end up staying undefeated,
which is entirely possible because they're both cruising.
Oh, one of them will be out this week. I can't until somebody in the ACC wants to beat Clemson. I'm not gonna be the one that calls for an upset.
No,
but I could see Miami covering this.
I think Miami will cover too. I still think Clemson wins, but I think Miami will cover.
Yeah, I think they barely cover.
Yeah,
but I think they'll cover.
Florida State Notre Dame. Who cares? Missouri is at LSU. LSU's 20.5-point favorite.
I was gonna say I take Brian High to beat Missouri right now.
Yeah.
Was it 20.5? Nah, LSU needs to exact some serious revenge. They're probably still pissed off about Mississippi State.
You know they are.
I think LSU will cover.
I think LSU will
cover. I think Missouri's just bad.
They're not great. Okay, so here's fun, and then of course getting into our matchup because that's the last ranked matchup of the week. You have A&M, Florida at Kyle Field. Currently matchup predictor, who cares? But it's 70% in favor of Florida. Then the spread as it stands is 6.5.
Yeah, I think it opened at like 5.5 or 6.5.
Yeah, it's 6.5-point dogs to Florida right now.
Yeah, I wish I'd dumped about $1,000 on 5.5.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where to start here. There's been a lot of hand wringing on social media.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to bet most people, just in general, much less our listeners, listen to Slipknot, but they have a song called "All Hope Is Gone."
Right.
There have been a lot of people on social media who should probably set that as their ringtone. All hope is not gone. It is not lost. Good Lord, get over yourselves. You played against Alabama.
Yeah.
So you have to look for two things. A short memory, except for the things you need to fix.
Right.
And hopefully just starting to kind of tiny little chipping away at the getting the plays in late, the substitution issues. You know, when you burn through 3 timeouts for no reason. If those are, you want to talk about the kind of mistakes that beat you against teams like Alabama, that's a real big one. Because you don't just beat Alabama on the field, you beat Alabama from the sideline too. And you start making mistakes like that, and we didn't have a chance. We really didn't. So as much as the players need to watch a lot of film and correct their shit, there's some coaches that need to watch a lot of film and correct their shit.
Yes.
That's kind of my stance on it.
You know, there's plenty of things that need to change. There's no doubt about it. But you know, we got to fix the things we can fix right now. And a lot of that just comes down to mentality.
I don't know. Yeah, I think the mentality is really the only thing to fix. I mean, there weren't a ton of egregious mistakes other than the secondary. But again, going into Florida, if there's one group that needs to get their shit right for this week, it's the secondary.
Yeah.
So here's my thing for all the, all the people out there. I posted a ton on Twitter after the game and kind of near the end of the game.
Sure.
And here's my take on this, and you can have whatever take you want. It's America, and that's fucking your prerogative.
Right.
But ultimately, wins and losses fall at the feet of the head coach.
Yep.
And I'm really sorry if you don't like that, but it's the reality of the matter. Well, the players on scholarship, they get all kinds of money. Ain't a player in college getting $7.5 million a year.
Chance.
Right? So ultimately, this all falls at the feet of the head coach. And the best coaches out there can take a little piece of humble pie, and they can go and look at themselves, and they can look at their performance, and they not only coach to change the players, but they coach to change the coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be the most important thing to look at moving forward. But look, in the same breath, I think Jimbo's the guy. I absolutely do. See, I'm not calling for Jimbo to be fired. See, I can be critical of Jimbo and still want him to be here because everybody's, it's 2020 and everybody loves to deal in absolutes, like a bunch of Siths out here. Only Siths deal in absolutes, man. Just in life, there's a lot of things to work around. And the reality is that I need to see a little change from the coaching as well. That doesn't mean I think we need to change coaches.
No.
I need the coaches to change. There's a difference.
Right. It's like any good relationship out there, right? Any marriage that's lasted longer than 5 minutes is going to be one of these marriages that is something that you just have to accept that there's going to be disappointment. There's things that are not going to go well, and you have
There's
to
going to
work.
be disappointment in marriage. It's like he's trying to get my wife on as a guest.
Yeah.
He talks about disappointment. No.
But my point being, you go through these issues and you have to work through them and eventually get out to the prize on the far side. You look at Dabo Swinney's first 3 years at Clemson.
Yeah.
Not great. You look at Nick Saban's first several years at Alabama. Not great. But then all of a sudden they build their legacy. You give them time to do what they do, and eventually it gets there. I'm not saying that Jimbo will do that. But what I will say is not phoning it in.
A little more patience?
Not phoning it in right now.
That can't be right because, see, we live in a world of instant gratification.
You're right.
It's year 2.2.
Yeah, it's like
So,
we're barely
we're
working in.
we're year 2.2, and we are not ranked first or second in the nation. We should probably, you know what? We should probably get rid of the football program.
I'm going to say just tear down Kyle Field, brick for brick. That's
Yeah.
fine. It doesn't need to be there.
No, and just hear me out here, maybe we could just give it a little time. And I'm not saying that there won't come a time where if certain things haven't happened to this program, certain achievements and benchmarks haven't been hit, that it won't be time to be like, all right, donors, we got to pony up the money because we just screwed this one up. We screwed up the hire. Mm-hmm. And if that point comes. We are not at that point, and we are not near that point.
No, and we won't be there for a while.
But however, I can still blame the coaches.
Right.
Okay? You can blame the players. I'm like you. I'm not going to... I do my absolute best to never call out a player.
Not now.
Like, they're college kids, man. And they're players. They're not... In the NFL, you can really call players out, and kind of try not to do that.
But
they're pros, so I don't feel bad if I do.
The pros are getting paid for their money. I mean, literally, they're living their life playing a game.
These kids represent my school.
Right.
And not only are they going to practice and playing games, they're taking classes, they're studying, they're doing everything else students have to do. They're student athletes. But if you think that it's not okay to call out a dude that gets paid $7.5 million a year to do whatever it is he does, we'll just go beyond it. A dude that gets paid $7.5 million a year needs to ensure that he produces. I don't expect him to produce immediately, but once he gets into the swing of things, there's no turning back.
No.
There's no regression. So what unfortunately I'm seeing a trajectory right now, it's only 2 games, but right now I'm seeing a very crappy trajectory for this season.
Yeah, this season.
And I need to see changes from the coaches.
Yeah, growth.
Not coaching changes.
No.
Yes,
Changes
coaching growth. I need the coaches to realize their own mistakes and not just the mistakes on the field.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're not doing it.
No.
But they're not doing it fast enough.
They're not doing it fast enough for us.
For the money that they get paid.
No, and the thing is, and like I said, it goes back to the instant gratification thing. We are expecting quick change on the fly. Hey, this is going to be a national championship winning program next week, and that doesn't happen.
No.
And it never will. So what we've got to do as a fan base, I hate it, I said it earlier, but we're going to say it again, manage the expectations on this season.
No, I don't think you manage the expectations. I think you need to go back and reassess what your expectations were and why they were.
Right. That's what I mean by that. I'm not saying like, hey, you need to dial it back and say A&M is not going to be there.
Because again, look at this.
A&M will be there, but you got to...
Well, think of it this way. If we can make the changes on the sideline and on the field, you run the table, number 2 in the West gets you there.
Right, and right now, this year, like I said, this is not a lost cause this season.
To God, no.
No, you lost Alabama. Yeah, sure. This truly, for me, and I've said this yesterday with a couple buddies of mine, this is Jimbo Fisher's measuring stick game. You have Florida coming in here.
I think it's a measuring stick season.
Even
though it's a weird season.
It is a weird season, but this game is almost the pinnacle of what would be a measuring stick, because this is a team we're not going to play regularly. It's a team that is good. It's a team that we, matchup-wise, it's going to be a little wonky for us. So that's why it's going to be, can we make the adjustments? Can Kellen Mond step up? Can our DBs step up? Can the players
I think
do
it's
it?
A big one.
It's going to be something.
This shift, what's funny is we're going to shift the onus back on the defense this week.
Right.
Because now they have to prove something to us.
I was like,
I thought Vanderbilt, Vandy or not, I thought they proved a little bit to us.
Right.
You're like, all right, good stepping stone, first week, offense, put them on the field a lot. The defense took a massive step back.
Yeah, it was not a good game.
So what I want to see, and again, it doesn't have to be everything changed all at once, because that's
not how
if you
it
try
works.
to change everything all at once, everything goes to absolute crap. But I just want to see if the coaches have spent the week looking at film and looking in the mirror.
Right.
Is the man in the mirror going to be the same next week as he was last week?
Yeah, and that's going to be the question.
Because you're the one that ultimately is I thought Elko called a terrible game.
No,
it sucks. He's a great coordinator, but he just called a really crappy game.
Right.
And the plays he did call, the defense couldn't execute. So it's straight up, man. You're there to coach these players and run them through the tape and be like, this is where you missed, this is where you hit. Mm-hmm. Let's fix what you missed. Let's move on to next week. And then those coaches need to look at that tape and look at themselves on that tape and be like, all right, well, should I have dialed this up? Should I play this? Why am I having substitution issues in game 2? Why am I having to burn 3 timeouts because of those substitution issues? Is it because I'm getting the plays in too late? These are things that the coaches need to do a little self-analysis on. And if I start to see improvement in that, I'll almost be more encouraged by that than I would be by changes for players playing a little bit better.
No doubt.
Because I think if they change that, the players will play better.
Right, I'd say if you're scheming well and you've got a good game plan and you've made adjustments, and that's the big thing, adjustments is the word, is the key. Yeah. You can make adjustments when something goes wrong so that thing doesn't go wrong again. That shows growth, and that's what we want.
It's just the simple stuff. It's what I just alluded to. You're having substitution issues and you're burning timeouts because of piss poor clock management.
And then you throw a pick immediately after that, which sucks.
And I watched the game. It wasn't poor clock management because of the players on the field. It wasn't.
No.
So
it was personnel choices by the coach.
The changes I want to see are more the coaches, and it's not just, okay, we're going to change things, we're going to do it this game. No, you're going to go into this game with a different mindset, and if things don't work, please continue to change throughout the game. please stop being so stubborn and realize that your way can't always be the highway.
No, and it won't necessarily be that way. You just, you have to adjust.
Saban's been through 5 or 6 offensive coordinators, but I mean, not necessarily by choice.
No.
But you talk about an old dude that's been really successful that shouldn't have to change, but has still been able to change.
Yeah.
So
that's what makes a
good coach is great.
A great coach, absolutely, is being able to make those adjustments. It doesn't matter if you can call a good game, but if it's being able to call that good game and have the ability to adjust on the fly. So all this,
I think Elko does that pretty well.
Sure.
Tuesday, I don't know if Elko's had a brain fart or what, man.
It was just rough. So going back to this Florida game, prediction. What do you got?
Oh God! These just get difficult. This is always so hard after Bama week,
right?
Because I'm such a sunshine pumper, and I drink so much maroon Kool-Aid.
It's part of being a RedAss.
God, man, I mean, yeah. Well, there's a difference between being a RedAss and a dumbass. I think Ain't going to win by 40.
Enjoy the dumbass.
If they wanted to win by 40, it would not break my heart.
Right.
But you have 2 games of film with Trask and Pitts.
Right.
So Elko has a real good idea of what to expect.
Right.
I think when Elko has a really good idea of what to expect, because when you put up 100 points in 2 games, you haven't held a lot back.
No.
All right. So I think Elko has a lot that he can look at. I think Elko will call a much better game. I think the offensive line at Florida isn't as good as Alabama's because that's really not that bold of a statement.
No, it's not a bold statement.
It's not a hot take.
No.
So I think we get more pressure on Trask. I think if we can produce pressure on Trask, we can win the game.
Okay.
I think that's really what it comes down to because Florida defense has shown they'll give up points. We have shown that we can move the ball and score on an Alabama defense.
Right.
Florida's defense ain't Alabama.
No.
They're taking the Arena League football approach. I'll just put up 55 and it ain't going to matter.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think we can win the game. I really do. I don't.
Yeah, what's your score?
It's going to have to be big, man. Because I think it'll be like the first one to 40 kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think our offense can do that. I really do. Every year you have to kind of look at a bunch of the stuff from the Bama game and then just throw it in the trash and realize that you're not going to face a defense like that again.
Right.
So I think if we're going to win, I think it's going to be something in like the 42-35 range. It might even be like 49-42.
Right.
I mean, it could be a massively high-scoring game, which I'd love to see. I'd love to see the offense just get clicking. I just think the defense plays a lot better this week.
I certainly hope so. Yeah.
And I'm gonna say we win because I'm gonna try and will the Ags to a win.
Right.
So I'm gonna say like 49-45. I think it's gonna be a track race. I think we can keep up. And I think that if any of you take blood pressure meds, I would make sure on Friday that you have your refill. So I'm gonna predict the Ags, if nothing else, to try and will them to win. I think the defense plays better, even though I think Florida will score a lot. I think Florida has the most high octane offense I've seen so far in college football. I think if we can hold Florida at a 30, we win. 30 or below, I think it's absolute win. So if you hold them to 30, I think we can win in the 42-30 range.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, if we both get up in the mid-40s, I don't know if we can win a shootout. So, you know what? I'll change. I'll say 42-30. I think the defense holds them down enough. 42-30, 42-28, and I think we kind of shocked the world a little bit.
Yeah, I said 41-31 whenever I was thinking about it, if we were going to win this game. I think they're kind of reiterating on your points a little bit. I do think it's just going to come down to, can the defense do enough? Can the offense get clicking? And like I said, if we can get some points going against that defense, I think we should be okay. Ole Miss put up 30-something on them.
If Kyle trask has a clean jersey at the end of the night, we will have lost by 35.
Right. No, we got to put him on his butt. Not once, not twice, but as many times as we can.
And I think we will. I think we'll succeed in getting after him. I can't remember the last time I saw back-to-back bad games from Elko.
No. So I think
he might lay a stinker, but he doesn't like 2 in a row.
No. So we ought to be okay. I mean, like I said, we'll just have to kind of adjust it as we go. But I mean, so like I said, Gator Week. Beat the hell out of Florida was the idea.
Yeah, question mark?
Question mark. I'll be at the game. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, you're on the game.
First one for me.
I'll be at home watching, analyzing, and getting pissed. But yeah, so I guess that's it for this week. We already kind of touched on Premier League and
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, the restaurant's back up and running. Tomorrow's Taco Tuesday again.
Let's go.
We're bringing back ribs on Wednesday, and starting Thursday, the potatoes will be on the menu every day.
Nice.
So, Good Bull's back up and running. So 11:30 to 6:30 Tuesday through Saturday. So 11:30 to 2:30 on Mondays. And then with game days, we all vary a little bit, but this game day, since it starts at 11, we'll run regular hours. So, it's like an exhausting weekend. With everything that went bad, and then like West Ham somehow wins, and I bought a new driver today, so I'm in like a really good mood.
Yeah.
The Stros won.
They did.
Or I guess or winning. Did they finally
Astros
win?
won 10-5.
So the Stros have won.
Woo!
I was talking to my sisters and my dad about this earlier. We had a little group text, and I was like, what would be the ultimate trifecta? If we were to beat the Dodgers in the World Series in Rangers' new stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that... I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Astros are on a great run, but I don't know that they can sustain it, but I didn't expect them to even get past the Twins. Granted, I had forgotten about the Twins' postseason woes. But yeah, so that's all I got, man. Man, I hope you guys are doing well out there. If there's any students out there, I know you guys got another round of tests coming up, so good luck on those. Keep slugging through. I know it's tough between the COVID stuff, the online classes, just everything is going on. Then on top of that, you barrel another round of tests on there. So good luck to the students.
Right.
Keep an eye on our social media for Good Bowl. It's just at Good Bowl BBQ. We'll be running some student specials here coming up soon. We're going to institute a punch card program.
Oh, that'll work.
Yeah, it's kind of like a reward. So you come in, 11 punches gets you your 12th plate free.
Right.
Because obviously we got to do everything in 12s,
right?
obviously,
Yeah.
right? So that's all I got, man.
So I do have one more funny before we leave. Somebody tweeted this, just on the Astros front. George Springer has 4 hits today in Dodger Stadium. Carlos Correa had 2 home runs today in Dodger Stadium. Cody Bellinger didn't do either of those all season in Dodger Stadium.
I can't stand the Dodgers.
Funny of the day. So love you guys so much. Anyway, this is once again, this is Robert _White 14 on Twitter. Roy May 50 on Twitter. Of course, we do appreciate you guys listening in. And like I said, continue to be safe out there. Wear your masks. This will all be over soon. Hopefully,
Get the hell out of Florida.
Get the hell out of Florida.
Go Stros.
Go Stros.
Yeah,